How to play Rummy and Rummy 500. Rummy is a card game that uses a 52-card French-suited deck. Rummy plays best with 2 to 4 players and can be adjusted to add more players. The object of the game is to have the most points, typically 500. Points are scored by laying out melds or matched sets. Matched sets can be either 3 or more cards of the same value, or 3 or more cards of sequential value in the same suit, such as a run of sequential hearts like 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. The cards you've laid out during the game will be added together at the end of the round to give you your running score. Setup. A dealer is selected and they deal out cards to each player going clockwise to their left. If you have a 2-player game, it's customary to deal out 13 cards to both players. Some people deal 10 cards instead. If you have 3 to 4 players, deal out 7 cards to each. If you have 5 to 6 players, deal only 6 cards to each player. The player to the left of the dealer begins their turn. On your turn, you must either take the top card from the deck, known as the stock pile, or 1 or more cards from the discard pile. If you take more than just the top card of the discard pile, you must immediately play the deepest card you pulled out. You also retain all the cards in between. In this case, you'd have to lay out the 2 immediately. If you're laying out match sets on your turn, they must be at least 3 of the same numbered card, or 3 or more of a sequence all in the same suit, or cards that add to already played sets. Unless you picked up multiple cards from the discard pile, you don't have to lay out any cards on your turn. In either case, a player ends their turn by putting one of their cards onto the top of the discard pile. Please note that you may not play the original top discarded card back to the top of the discard pile on the same turn. Laying off. If you have a card in your hand that could work on 1 or more of your own previously laid out sets or another player's laid out set or sequence, you may play cards off of these sets. Simply put the card or cards that work with the laid out match sets in front of you. Other players can continue to play off these cards if it furthers the sequence. If a player discards a card that could have been used in a matched set, any other player can immediately yell out "Rummy," take that card and add it to their laid out matches. Play continues with players taking new cards and putting down sets and sequences until one player goes out. Going out means a player has played out all of the cards in their hand and discarded their final card into the discard pile. The round can also end if the stockpile is empty and players can no longer make matches with cards from the discard pile. If you are the player to go out, you count up the sum of your match sets, sequences, and laid out cards. The card values are: pip cards are the value of their number. A 2 is 2 points, a 3 is 3 points, and so on. 10s, jacks, queens, and kings are each worth 10 points. In this version, aces are worth 15 points. If you are not the player to go out, you must subtract the value of cards left in your hand against the value of your match sets, sequences, and laid out cards. Because of this, it's possible for a player to have a negative score at the end of a round. Write down your score. A new dealer shuffles the deck and gameplay repeats until one player ends a round with 500 or more points. And that's how you play Rummy. Please note that Rummy's rules are not universal, and it's almost never played the same way from table to table. Here are some common variations. Most players reuse the discard pile as a new stock pile when the main stock pile runs out. Simply flip the discard pile over without shuffling it. Many players play with an alternate ending. Once a player has gone out in this style, they don't add up the value of matched sets and sequences laid out. Rather, the player who goes out gets the value of the remaining cards in other players' hands. Some players add 2 jokers, which are used as wild cards. They are each worth 15 points at the end of the game. In many variations, you can cycle sequences through the ace, meaning the ace can be both a high and low card, potentially connecting the king to the 2 card. Many people use different types of scoring. Some players mark all pip cards as 5 points, making adding easier. Other players score the ace as 1 point rather than 15 points. The most important rule of all is to have fun. Use this video as a guideline and make sure you're in agreement with the rules before you start a game. Was this too fast? Don't worry, I have a longer Rummy video with lots of details. Just click right here and take a deeper dive into the world of Rummy.